Alright, this is Mr. Sumpter going ahead and trying to give the geometry lesson for 5.7. Luckily, this is on Pythagorean theorem, so you shouldn't have too much trouble. We'll just review for part of it, but there will be a few new things that we add to it. As you should know, the Pythagorean theorem is a squared plus b squared equals c squared, and so the questions will say solve for the x or the missing variable, and it'll also say, I believe, to give your answer in simplest radical form. So I'll go over that real quick as well. So again, remember the c is always our hypotenuse, the longest side. So on this first equation, you're just going to do 4 squared plus 8 squared equals x squared, because that's our c, our hypotenuse. 4 squared is 16, 8 squared is 64, 64 plus 16 is 80. So 80 equals x squared, and so to undo a squared, you take the square root, and so the square root of 80 is my answer. Simplest radical form, though, you want to factor out any perfect squares that you can, and 80 can be divided by 16 5 times, so that actually equals the square root of 16 times the square root of 5, and so my simplest radical form would be 4 root 5. The second question, a little bit different here, because we have an x plus 4, we have an expression for the hypotenuse. Notice, no matter which way that's twisted, the triangle is turned around, that the hypotenuse is always opposite the right angle. And so therefore, to set this up, I'm going to do x squared plus 12 squared equals x plus 4 squared. And so to do x plus 4 squared, remember back to algebra, you're going to have to FOIL that. So it's x plus 4, and so FOIL that, and you get first x squared, outside plus 4x, inside plus 4x, and last would be plus 16. So when I rewrite this, I get x squared plus 8x plus 16 equals x squared plus 144. Now luckily there's no quadratic here that we need to worry about solving, because when I subtract x squared to both sides, it's just going to cancel out x squared, and so you don't have to worry about the x squared on this problem actually. So I get 144 equals 8x plus 16. So then we subtract 16 to both sides. 144 minus 16, and I get 128 equals 8x, and so then you divide that by 8, and you get x equals 16. So that's how you do the second problem there. Okay? 1b, excuse me. The second example here is a story problem, and I'll pull up the book here real quick to show you. It's about a ladder, and it says right here that for a ladder, the ratio of A to B, so how high it goes up the wall compared to how far it should be away from the wall, is 4 to 1. So in other words, because this is 4 to 1, that means that A is actually 4 times B. So to be able to solve this problem, that's the first thing we need to think about, is that, there's the bell, is that A equals 4B. So we need to know that first. And for this problem, they're saying, the question is saying, how high will a 30-foot ladder reach when placed against a wall? So the wall is 30 foot. A little better there. The wall is 30 feet, and we want to know how far it can reach up the wall. We want to know what A equals. So to do this problem, we're going to replace A actually with 4B, because A is 4 times B. So it's 4B squared plus B squared equals 30 squared. And then therefore, and it does say how many inches up the wall. We can take care of that later. This is in feet. It's a 30-foot ladder. But remember, because the whole thing's squared, this is actually 16b squared plus b squared equals 30 squared, which is 900. And so that's 17b squared equals 900. And so you have to divide by 17, and you get b squared equals 900 divided by 17. So actually the best way to do this will be just take the square root of that whole thing, 900 over 17. So type that in your calculator and do 900 square root Trying to figure out my calculator here. Here we go. Square root of 900 divided by 17. Take the square root of that, and I get approximately 7.2, we'll call it 28 feet. Okay, but again, it did say how many inches is that. And so that's in feet. There's 12 inches per foot, so just times it by 12, and I get I did not change this before, did I? Shoot. All right. Sorry about that. A little mistake here on my part. I was looking at the directions to say to the route it to the nearest inch. I think I gave the answer originally in feet. But anyways, 7.28 equals B. So B equals that. And they want to know how far A is. Well, remember, A is 4 times B. So then take that and times it by 4. And I get approximately A equals approximately 29 feet. It says 29.12, but we'll call that 29 feet. So that's our answer. It will reach about 29 feet up the wall. Okay? All right. Next thing, Pythagorean triple. A Pythagorean triple is a right triangle with a whole numbers for values of the side. So no decimals anywhere. It all works out evenly with all whole numbered values. And so these are very common Pythagorean triples. And if you learn these, can kind of memorize these, maybe make some note cards, it makes a lot of these problems even easier. But we have a 3, 4, 5 right triangle. That's a very common. A 5, 12, 13. In other words, 5 squared plus 12 squared equals 13 squared. And it works out perfectly into the Pythagorean theorem. So does 8, 15, and 17 right triangle, and a triangle with sides of 7, 24, 25. Again, those are common Pythagorean triples. And keep in mind, you could have these in the same ratio. In other words, 9, 12, 15, because if I multiply all the sides by 3, that would also be a 3, 4, 5 right triangle. So the directions for the next section say to find x. I already solved it for x on the previous problem, so we're not going to worry about it. I'll skip these. But not only do you solve for x, but then also tell if it's a Pythagorean triple or not. So do that. Find out if it does come out evenly as a whole number, then it's a Pythagorean triple. If it doesn't come out evenly as a whole number, then it's not a Pythagorean triple. Pretty simple concept there, hopefully, with that. One of the problems that you have, like 3C here, you have one side that's a 1, one side that's 2.4. The x actually will come out as a decimal, just a tenth of, you don't have to round it, comes out to a point with a 1 decimal place. And some students think, well, that went in evenly. Well, it kind of did, but they're not whole numbers, so that would not be a Pythagorean triple. Okay, so keep that in mind when you're doing your work. Last thing today is triangle inequality theorem. The sum of 2 shortest sides must be greater than the longest side. For it to be a triangle, the 2 shortest sides have to add up to the longest side. If I took 2 sticks that were a certain length and tried to make a triangle out of them, the hypotenuse, or in other words, the longest side, would have to be longer, have to be shorter than those 2 sides added together. So you can kind of picture that and think how that would work. If it's not longer, if those 2 added up is not longer, then it's not going to make a triangle. Then also, in addition, you have to classify these triangles. So once you know it does make a triangle or not, to classify these, put them in your Pythagorean theorem. If a squared plus b squared is greater than c squared, then it's an obtuse triangle. It's not right, it's an obtuse triangle. If a squared plus b squared is less than c squared, then it is an acute triangle. So just knowing those 2 rules will help you figure this last part out. So for A, again, is it a triangle? 7 plus 12 is 19. 19 is bigger than 16. Yes, it's a triangle. So now we have to figure out what kind of triangle. So 7 squared plus 12 squared, compare that with 16 squared. And so that's 49 plus 144. 16 squared is 256. And 49 plus 144 is 193. So I have 193 compared with 256. It's less than, again, I already knew it's a triangle because these 2 sides are bigger than the other side added together. But because it's less than, a squared plus b squared is less than 256, this would be an acute triangle. For B here, let me pull this up a little bit, last couple here. For B says 11 and 18 and 34. Well, 11 plus 18, right, would be 29. 29 is not bigger than 34, so this wouldn't even make a triangle. Not a triangle. And the last one, 3.8 and 4.1, I think you can tell because 4.1 and 3.8 is clearly going to be more than 5.2. So we have to determine if it's what kind of triangle. So 3.8 squared plus 4.1 squared, how does that compare with 5.2 squared? So let's double check my calculator here. 3.8 squared is 14.44. 4.1 squared is 16.81, and I'm going to add that to 14.44, and I get 31.25. Again, comparing that with 5.2 squared, 5.2 squared is 27.04. So in this case, it's greater than, so this would be an obtuse triangle. Hope that helps you out with today's lesson. Again, I am available to email at any time throughout the day. And I will try to get back with you within a few moments. At the longest, and on a normal day, it would probably be within a half an hour tops, but I will try to get back to you as soon as possible. Hope that helps. You can also watch the videos from the textbook website if you need some additional help. Thank you.